So Stian Jensen, who is the chief of staff to NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg, said at an event in Norway that while any peace deal would have to be acceptable to Ukraine, some of the alliance members were discussing how the war might be brought to an end. He said, I quote, "I think that a solution could be for Ukraine to give up territory and get NATO membership in return." Rightfully, Ukraine strongly disagree with this stance, and frankly, so do I. There must be nothing less than the restoration of the internationally recognized pre-2014 borders in Ukraine, and this includes Crimea. Russia is starting to falter internally due to the economy, and it is faltering on the battlefield due to attrition and morale issues. President Zelensky said it best when he said trading territory for a NATO umbrella is ridiculous. That means deliberately choosing the defeat of democracy, encouraging a global criminal, preserving the Russian regime, destroying international law, and passing the war on to another generation. After all, why should Russia voluntarily abandon provocations, its adventurism, hybrid actions, all-out war, and what is essentially the traditional Russian behavior in trying to just take whatever they want without losing? Obviously, if Putin does not suffer a crushing defeat, the political regime in Russia does not change, and war criminals are not punished, and the war will definitely return to Europe with Russia's appetite for more. They will have won in their eyes. The Russians will feel like they have won. They will feel like that it was worth it to gain that territory. And even if it's not worth it in the eyes of the world, they will spin it internally that it was. Attempts to preserve the world order and establish a, quote, bad peace through Putin's triumph will not bring peace to the world in the future. We have seen bad peaces in the past and what they led to. It led to further world wars. This applies to any type of format of dividing European countries, including those under a NATO umbrella, or dangling the NATO umbrella to divide a European nation such as Ukraine. When proposing a scenario of a freeze, which is desired by Russia, you are giving Russia what it currently wants, instead of speeding up the end of this war by supplying weapons. In a sense, murderers should not be encouraged by such appalling and cowardly suggestions. I am frankly sick of the weak will coming out of both NATO and the Biden administration. Give Ukraine the long-range missiles, give Ukraine F-16s, give Ukraine the advanced drones, give Ukraine what it needs, and this war will end with a Ukrainian victory on the battlefield and a Putin Soviet-era KGB regime collapsing. I cannot fathom the pathetic reasons behind Biden's hesitancy here. Is he worried that we will cross yet another red line? That Russia will attack NATO? Because if they did, that would be the last thing they ever do, and everyone knows that. Are we afraid of their nukes? So because they have nukes, we just let them do what they want because they have them? They get to take swaths of territory, which literally happens every decade for Russia. They do this shit every 10 to 15 years. Invade, take ground, start to falter, sue for a ceasefire, back off, bring back the status quo for their economy and trade, and then they do it all again. It's how they chip away at getting the empire they have always, and I mean always wanted. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, we have seen Transnistria in 1992, Georgia in 2008, Ukraine in 2014, and then Ukraine again in 2022, and we continue to allow it to happen. For generations, the U.S. stood up to bullies, up to and including standing up to the bully in Iraq when he invaded Kuwait in 1991. I get that the divide between Russia and NATO's capability has grown so vast that we worry about Russia thinking their only recourse is to use nukes, and that's really because it is. Russia would see a 1,000 to 1 casualty ratio in a war with a US-led NATO coalition, and Russia knows this. But we cannot be the most powerful military in the history of the world, a part of the most powerful military alliance in the history of the world, by a few orders of magnitude here. I mean, by a significant amount, the power difference is that vast. And we cannot just sit by and do nothing. Russia must be ejected from Ukraine and feel a generational level of economic pain and isolation for their choices. They must not be able to return to the global table until they have learned a significant measure of civility. The collapse of the Soviet Union clearly did not do that for them. So whatever follows Ukraine and the collapse that could be coming for the Putin regime needs to be far worse. Period. And the United States needs to finally stand up and quit waffling about its support with Ukraine and provide Ukraine with what it needs to end the regime of a war criminal now.